Welcome to another episode of Whispers of the Womb. In today's episode, we dive into the soothing realm of creating a flowy practice for arthritis relief with our special guest, Rachel Atkins. Rachel, the founder of Yoga Flowly and a seasoned yoga instructor and mindfulness coach based in the UK, shares her personal journey with rheumatoid arthritis and how yoga became a transformative tool in her life. Discover how Rachel, diagnosed at the age of 20, found solace both physically and mentally through yoga. From restricted mobility to exploring a beginner's guide to Hatha Yoga, she recounts her initial struggles and the pivotal role a simple DVD played in introducing her to the world of yoga. Join us as Rachel reflects on the power of meditation, breath and movement in creating a harmonious practice tailored for arthritis relief. Stay tuned for valuable insights, modifications, and the beauty of marrying breath with movement. This is an episode you won't want to miss on Whispers of the Womb. So welcome to Whispers of the Womb, Rachel. Delighted to have you here. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners about your business and what Yoga Flowly offers.
Oh, thank you for having me, Suzanne. It's nice to be here. So Yoga Flowly is my online yoga and mindfulness studio. It's the place where I offer live yoga sessions, workshops, and one-to-ones as well, private one-to-ones. Most of the offerings that I have are on the more gentle beginner side of yoga. And I also, which is my baby, I also run a regular yoga for arthritis session, which is for a small group of people. And I do this because I am someone that lives with rheumatoid arthritis.
Excellent. And so for those who are listening, how would you explain to a sufferer of arthritis how a yoga practice has transformed maybe not just your physical health, but your mental health as well?
So shall I talk about like this, how I got into yoga? Is that
Yeah,
what you want me? Yeah.
yeah.
So when I was first diagnosed, which was when I was 20, I was kind of really suffering with the diagnosis, more so mentally than,
Yep.
I mean, I was suffering physically, but I was struggling mentally with it. I couldn't work. My mobility was really restricted. And it was my neighbor at the time that said to me, "Have you tried yoga?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I'll be able to do any of the moves." And she was like, "Well, I've got this DVD." That's how long ago it was. It was a DVD. She was like, "I've got this DVD and it breaks things down and there's meditation in there." And also at the end of the DVD was a section with modifications and different things, like just helping you out. So I initially just watched the DVD and I started to do the meditation at the beginning. So it was beginner's guide to Hatha Yoga anyway, and I don't think I can remember who the teacher was at all I remember was she was an older lady. She was really calming, had a lovely calm voice, so she was like really easy to follow. And she would basically talk you through this meditation and talk you through focusing on your breath, and then when you went into a practice, being able to marry the movement with your breath, become really present. And it was that thing, being present and really thinking and focusing on my breath, that took me out of my own head. So that's how it started. And then gradually I started to try out some of the moves. Obviously I couldn't do a majority of them, to be fair. I could do a seated forward fold. I would have to protect my knees. I could do that. I could do twists, seated twists. So that was good. And that was really good for movement as well, and the breath. I could move with the breath and do the twists. And eventually one day when I was having a really good day, my wrists were feeling great. I was able to do a downward dog and I was like, I was like, this is amazing. So it started off really small, and then eventually the more and more I did yoga, obviously I couldn't live without medication. So I had to, it took me a while, or the doctors a while, to get me on the right medication. But yeah, the two together have just been an absolute game changer for me. And now I have flare ups probably maybe twice a year. That's it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's amazing.
Thanks for sharing that. And you know, that must have been quite difficult at the age of 20. That's so young to be dealing with such a debilitating condition that is
Yeah,
clearly painful. And I loved what you said there, because it's interesting when you know, as yoga teachers, when we say to anybody out there, really, have you tried yoga? It'll really help. And you
mm,
always get that back, oh, I'll never be able to do the moves. And what you've rightly pointed out there, actually, it's more about the breath and it's more about the mind. And
yeah.
once you get that in control, which is exactly the route you took, you can then start to create that beautiful practice.
Exactly. Yeah, it really was just life changing. Just being able to get out of your head, and even now, breath, just focusing on the breath, like box breathing is something that I do quite a lot. If I get quite stressed out or anxious, I sit for 5 minutes, box breathe, and yeah, that just takes you out of your head. You're focusing just on your breath, and it's just a massive help. It
Mhm.
really is.
Thanks for sharing that. And so you've trained in both Hatha and Yin yoga, just like me.
Yes,
So we've both done
yes.
the same kind of training. So I was wondering if, just for the listeners who don't know, or those who think they know and they probably don't, could you share what the fundamental differences is between those two practices for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely love both practices, and I found yin yoga later on than I did hatha. So yin yoga is a much slower practice. You hold poses for longer periods of time, normally 2 to 3 minutes, but sometimes up to five. And you hold the poses longer in order to get into your deep connective tissues, such as your fascia and your collagen. So yeah, it can be really great for the body as a whole. And it's all on the floor as well. So you're all, most of the time, just laid on the floor doing seated positions, or you're laying down. So that's what's great about it as well. But it also, with holding the poses for a few minutes, you're able to have space to try and calm your mind, a little bit like you would with meditation. But you're probably focusing a little bit more on how you feel in a pose. You have to find your edge. Um, yeah, so I also think that yin yoga is a little bit of a bridge to meditation as well. So if you, someone that wants to try meditation but thinks that your mind runs away with you too much, yin yoga is quite a good place to start with that. And then Hatha Yoga is a more active practice. You focus on marrying movement with breath, like we just said. Yeah, and what I love about Hatha Yoga is you can make it super gentle and quite slow, but it can also be quite challenging as well. You can do balance poses, and it can be quite challenging as well. So yeah, you can adapt your practice to suit the needs of the student that you're teaching. So yeah, that's what I love about Hatha Yoga as
Yeah,
well.
thanks for sharing that. And I love what you mentioned there in the yin about the edge. I love that, like, reference there.
Yeah.
So for the listeners that don't know, the edge in yin is where you shouldn't be feeling pain, but you should be feeling that resistance, and that it's like that relaxation of the muscles and the tendons, and just it's allowing. For me, I love to think of it as like my whole skeleton is relaxing. That's how I
Mm.
kind of, it just feels such a nurturing practice.
It is, yeah. It's also as well, I think, when you find your edge and you sit in that little, it's a little sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a little sweet spot where you can feel it, but you've also got to be able to sit with it. So
Mhm.
like if you're too fidgety, if you feel like you want to move around, then maybe you've just taken it that little bit too
Too
far.
far. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's all about that connection, going back to what was discussed about the breath. And I remember in a few different classes as where you've got into a pause, and they're like, right, we're going to be here for 5 minutes. And I'm like, there's no way am I going to be able to stay here for 5 minutes. And then the teacher starts to talk you through the breath, and they start to kind of distract you a little bit from the
mm,
actual realization of what you're doing. And then before you know it, you're so immersed in that posture.
yeah,
Um, and you mentioned about Hatha as well, being that, that difference between slow, quicker, more intense. And that comes with time as well, doesn't it? Because as yoga teachers,
exactly.
we teach and we say, I invite you to do this, but if this doesn't feel right, then do this, or you can use props. I'm a great believer in, bringing the ground up if you need to with blocks and
Definitely.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like a lot of people when you say you're a yoga teacher and people say, I can't, I'm not flexible enough. And I go like blue in the face, like trying to explain that you don't need to be flexible and that you can use props and you can do this and you can do that. I also find as well that a lot of people don't want to use props. It's kind of that ego getting in the way, like, oh, why would I need props? But even me as a teacher, I
Mhm.
use them in my own self practice and stuff, sometimes to try and, deepen my practice, try and get me a little further. It helps like massively. Props are your friends, people.
I still to this day, 15, 16 years later, still sit on a block in cross-legged in easy pose. I still
Yeah,
have the edge of my seat on a block to lower my knees from my hips, so my knees are lower than my hips,
yeah,
because I can sit cross-legged without it, but it feels more comfortable and more relaxed if I've got that. And it feels like a little bit of a friend. And actually, whenever I go on holiday, I always take a yoga block with me.
oh, do
Always.
you?
Yeah, always. Because I find if I'm a bit agitated or if I need that rest, I love to lie on my back and use the brick under my neck.
Mm,
It just feels like and then I've got it to sit on if I've got backache after a flight, or if we're stuck at the airport, if we've got delayed at the airport. I can't stand sitting on seats in airport departure lounges.
yeah.
So I'll get the brick out my bag and I'll sit on my brick on the floor.
That's brilliant. I might use that. I might use that, definitely.
Yeah, just all these little tips. And also straps. I love, yoga strap or
Yeah,
resistance bands. I mean, when I was recovering from my surgery, resistance bands became my good friends because I couldn't do anything myself with my own body weight. So by using the resistance bands, it was really helping to bring in that sort of, well, resistance.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so what mindfulness practice do you use regularly? You've touched on meditation and obviously your breathing techniques. Is there anything else that you do, or is there anything else that you have as a regime? Or when you said earlier you sometimes have a flare up, what kind of things do you tap into?
So it used to be meditation was something when I had a flare up, but
Mm.
more recently, in the last couple of years, it's been yoga nidra. So I find that if I can spend like half an hour or so doing a yoga nidra, it just really calms my nervous system, it calms my mind, it calms my body, and it just takes me away from how I'm feeling. And just, I don't know, kind of just completely balances me out.
Mhm.
One thing I find really frustrating if I do have a flare up is that I can't probably move like I want to.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes, not very often, but sometimes I'll have to like cancel my work for the day. Um, and yeah, that frustrates me because then I feel like I'm not in control. So
Yeah.
doing some yoga nidra is something that, yeah, helps me just completely zone out, and it just kind of, it's like a bath for the whole body. It just completely, washes, makes me feel like I'm completely balanced and zen. Um,
It's funny as well, because I was just talking to someone the other week about yoga nidra, and I always used yoga nidra for nighttime, like
yeah,
before I went to sleep. But recently, and I don't know why, it's just an intuitive thing. I've started doing it in the morning, especially
mm,
when the clocks were changing in the UK and we were going from summertime to winter time. And I found that doing it in the morning was like, it was almost like I was doing a complete reboot of my system.
yeah,
Um, and even though yoga nidra were just lying there, not doing anything, listening to, what's being said, it just felt like an amazing, I don't know, it was weird because I can't understand how it's so different. So in nighttime, it's switching the brain off and allowing me to sleep. But then in the
yeah,
morning, it was almost like it was a reboot and a let's get ready for the day. So I,
yeah.
I guess it's just what your body needs at that time.
At
It's
that time,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, you're supposed to lay there like with full awareness, and you're not really supposed to fall asleep if you
Yeah,
can try not to fall
yeah,
asleep. So yeah, doing it in the morning would probably be better. I tend not to do it at night because I will just fall asleep. I'm one of those that I will teach someone yoga nidra and say, yeah, have full awareness. Don't try not to fall asleep. But yeah, I am one of those people that will be
yeah.
snoring after 10 minutes. So yeah, another little practice that I have. A few years ago, I think on another podcast, Diary of a CEO podcast, there was an expert on there talking about journaling, and they was talking about how, if you're not a person that regularly journals, so if you don't journal every single day, you will often, when something bad happens or you've had a stressful day, you'll go to your journal and you'll write it all out and get it all out of your system. And they were like, why not have like the documenting and journaling the good things, even the small little things, like you had a great cup of tea, that you made yourself a cracking cuppa this morning, little things like that. So I went out and bought a journal, and I have a good day journal. So, and I apply this to everything, work and just general life stuff. And also my condition as well. If I've had a good day, I write it down. Joints were great. Just, one sentence, joints were great. And then when I am having a pretty rubbish time or rubbish day, I go to that journal and I look at it. And it's a really great way to see that not everything was bad. Good things do happen to you. And then you remember things, you reminisce, and it just makes you a little more grateful as well. So, yeah, that's something I've been doing for the last couple of years.
And that's a really good piece of advice, because then if you do revisit the good bits on a bad day, you might see that, oh, I've had a cracking cup of tea. So you might go and make yourself a good cup of tea, and then it'll make you feel better
Yeah.
because you'll remember how you felt. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It just reminds you, and it's really important to put small things in there, like
Mhm.
really small things. Like my youngest, he's becoming a teenager now, so he's becoming quite moody, but he's really funny when he wants to be. Tells me the funniest jokes, and he's like makes me laugh. He's the person that makes me laugh the most. So that's few and far between now. He's getting near the teenage years. So yeah, when he makes me laugh, like I write that down and go, yeah, he's
Oh.
still tickling the funny bone.
I've just actually thought of something that happened to me this morning, actually, which I've noticed, and I've like, it's like a nice little memory, and it's like, it's so cute, but it needs to go in a journal. I need to be doing what you're doing, and it's whenever I've washed and blow dried my hair, I've got this like spray that I put on it, and
Yeah.
if I go to cuddle my dog, Heidi, she makes this noise and she cuddles into my neck as if to say, "Oh, Mum, your hair smells lovely."
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, little things like that though. They're life's little joys, aren't they? So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Absolutely. And they are what makes the day worthwhile.
exactly.
So just going back to your arthritis, like what area of the body, you've been working with people with arthritis. What area of the body would you say is most affected? And what yoga posture would you recommend for that area of the body?
Oh, so arthritis is such a broad
Hmm.
spectrum, if you like. There's so many different types, and even one particular type affects people in different ways. It tends to be the major joints, like your knees, your wrists. For me, I've got it in pretty much every joint of my body, majority of them. However, because I don't really get that many flare-ups now, they're all kind of under control at the moment. But
Right.
if I do have any, it's in my um, shoulders and neck.
Oh,
Oh, I can wake up sometimes in the morning and I want to scream because they just hurt so
and
much.
does that give you headaches as well, or
Yeah, I do
yeah?
get quite a lot of migraines as well. So yeah, I think definitely my neck is connected to that. And when I move my neck, I can hear a fizz, like a fizzing. It is in the back of right at the base where my skull and
Hmm.
this top of your spine meet. I can hear like a little fizzing all the time in there. And I also have to like crack my neck, which sounds horrible, but it's like a little pop, a little release that I do, like I can just do it. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of different, like I say, it's really hard to just give one.
Yeah.
Simple stretches would be where I would start, if you've got arthritis. And a really great pose that I think pretty much anybody can do is banana pose,
Oh
banasana.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I love
So
banana
you
poses.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can lay down and get into that banana shape and then like really kind of stretch out through the side body. And even just that little pose either side, just spending a few minutes either side. Or you can make it a little more active. So you can go to one side, do a little bit of a stretch, move to the other side, do the little stretch, and do this a few times. Just that really kind of wakes up the body, just makes it
You can
feel
do
a
that
little
in
more
do that
alive.
you can do that in bed, can't you? Yeah.
Literally, yeah, you can do it in bed, you can lay on the floor. So I think pretty much anybody can do that. And it's just about starting with those little things. For me, with my shoulders and my neck, I do like just simple neck rolls. And then eagle arms actually is quite a good one
Mm.
for
Yes, for your
shoulder
shoulders.
release. Yeah, just to release the shoulders as well. Um, but
And so
yes,
rem
sorry.
do you remember, like, when you did your first down dog, do you remember how it felt or how the victory you felt?
Oh yeah, I was elated. It was amazing because that's the kind of the yoga pose everybody knows, isn't it? Everybody knows downward dog, whether you do it or not. Everybody knows that one. Yeah, and the feeling of like opening up the backs of my legs,
Mhm.
which I had quite a lot of swelling in my knees at the time. It was my knees and my wrists when I first got diagnosed that were the worst.
Right.
So yeah, it was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, fab. And everyone forgets that downward dog is actually a resting pose, don't they? It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's an absolute beautiful resting pose.
I also as well, when my wrists were quite bad, I realised that dolphin pose was quite a good one because I could come onto my
Oh, on your
forearms.
elbows. Yeah,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, come down onto my forearms, and so yeah, and that's one that they don't really teach that as a modification, but it's definitely one that I use for people if they can't do a downward dog because you're putting all the weight then on the
On your feet.
forearms
Yeah.
and not your wrists.
And
Yeah,
I love dolphin for, like, my back ribs. I can never really seem to get into my back ribs, and
no.
unless and but if I'm in dolphin, it does feel nice to feel them opening up. So thanks for sharing this. It's been really, really useful.
Oh, thank
And
you.
so I'd love for you to share with the listeners what's coming up in Yoga Flowly, like where can we find you? We'll be putting all the links in the showcase notes anyway, but please tell us a little bit about, your business, where you are and what you're working on.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Yoga Flowly is an online yoga studio. So, yeah, you can find me at yogaflowly.com, and on there is all my weekly sessions that I've got going on, any workshops, up and coming workshops. And then you can also book one-to-one sessions with me as well. I do have a little freebies page on there where you can find, there's a free guide to starting yoga if you have arthritis. So nice little quick kind of tips and tricks and how to get started, because not everybody wants to go to a yoga class or involve the teacher straight away. They just want to see, test the waters, see if it's for them, if they feel that they can do it or not.
Like what you did with the DVD.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I've also got a free audio, which is a yoga nidra, and it's specifically for people who have flare-up days, and not necessarily for yoga. It could be for anyone that has some sort of like chronic disease or illness where they have that flare-up and they just need to like I said, like get that balance of your body and your mind, calm the nervous system. So I have that. And then just recently, very exciting, there's a new platform. It's a female-led platform called The Common Ground. And I've recently just posted some bespoke yoga packages on there. And those packages go for a range of topics. I've got arthritis and joint health. I've got mindfulness and yoga for like busy women, busy mums. So these packages consist of 2 live sessions with myself, one-to-one sessions with myself. And then in those one-to-one sessions, we do movement, we look at meditation, yoga nidra, but also look at how we can incorporate the practice of yoga within this person's life. So like personalize it, tailor it to it. And then from that information, I go away and make 3 personalized videos and either a yoga nidra or meditation, whatever the person wants to choose. And then that all comes in a nice package for the person. So they're my bespoke packages, which I'm really proud of them at the moment. So they're really good.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So it's been delightful to have you on this episode. So thank you so much for your time, Rachel.
Oh, thank you so much, Suzanne. It's been lovely.
And all the notes, the showcase notes will be in the bottom for everyone so they can tap in and contact you directly. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. As we conclude this enlightening episode, let's revisit the wisdom shared by our incredible guest, Rachel Atkins. From her personal experience with rheumatoid arthritis to the transformative power of yoga, Rachel highlighted the importance of mindfulness, breath, and movement in finding relief. Now, if you or someone you know is facing challenges relating to gynecological pain or hormonal imbalances, I want to introduce you to the Wellness to Womb program. I'm Suzanne, your host and wellness coach, and I resonate deeply with Rachel's journey. My program offers a holistic approach integrating yoga and mindfulness tailored to women seeking relief and holistic wellness. So, inspired by Rachel's story, consider also exploring the Wellness to Womb program. Contact me for more details on how this holistic wellness journey can be your path to a more balanced and vibrant life. Remember, you have the power to transform and thrive. Until the next time on Whispers of the Womb, take care and embrace the journey to holistic well-being.